Aloha and welcome to a League of Extraordinary Couples. I am delighted to welcome you as we celebrate this Valentine's Day with a very, very special interview as we dive deep to discover how creating lasting intimacy and love can indeed enrich our lives. Today, I welcome our distinguished guests, Elsbeth Meuth, Dr. Elsbeth Meuth, and Freddy Zental. They are spiritual teachers and intimacy co-creators in their own lives and in their work with a wide variety of people. Their expansive influence on many, many people, including specifically, they are the co-founders of the Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago. Did I get that right?
Beautifully.
Great, yeah.
Well, welcome and aloha. Please greet our audience before we dive deep into our questions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us and doing what you're doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you. I've had the great good fortune of spending a little bit of time getting to know you. I look forward to much more. And as we introduce you to our audience, or perhaps they already know you, we're going to dive deep into your personal relationship. And where I'd like to start is with a little creative imagination, which is if you were to describe your relationship as a landscape, how would you paint that picture for us? How would you describe that?
So my picture is to like this, there's just a big grassy area. It's lush and green and some bushes and some trees. And then a little further down is this water. It's either a big lake or the ocean, you know, like that. And it feels like a spring day. Warm, fresh, and anew.
Yeah, I would picture it, paint it as an open field that is just beckoning creativity and personal expression and growth together and individually. So.
Beautiful, beautiful imagery. There is this fresh aliveness in that space between the two of you. I can see it. It's palpable. It's right there. And, so that fresh aliveness, the creativity, the freedom, and the encouragement to be oneself individually and to tend to that space between is really what I'm hearing you both say. Am I getting you?
Yes, you
Totally.
got it. Yeah.
Great.
Totally.
Well, thank you for painting that picture. That helps us get to know you and understand a little bit of the landscape features that might be around. And then we're going to dive into, if you had to distill your relationship down to its essence, what matters most? And granted, you may each have a different expression on that response, but what matters most in your personal relationship?
Wow, this is such a beautiful question. What matters most to me is the willingness by both of us to stay with what is, to not give up, to bring ourselves really like that a new place of that meadow, you know, that spring day. That is like every day, and particularly the days that may be a little bit more difficult, or phases that may be challenging in the relationship because one may want something else than the other. Instead of going apart or, you know, physically staying together, but not mentally and with the heart, that this is not an option. We may therefore be for a couple of days, but there is the willingness and the commitment on both sides to come together over and over and over again, no matter how difficult it may be, no matter how raw I may feel, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, to be totally honest.
That what I'm hearing is that willingness to keep on keeping on, to come together. And knowing what I know about you and your expertise around sexuality, is there a pun intended with that come together over?
Actually, I would say no, that is not a goal.
Okay.
Sexually together, because that's very goal-oriented.
Yeah.
And the way we flow in life, in the bedroom, in our hearts is that is a flow. It's like a dance. You know, a dance doesn't have a goal. It's about the journey. And so in that coming together in the sense of coming together to dance.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for that clarification. I think that will really help our audience, and it certainly helps me relinquish that need to meet a goal, because with that comes that added pressure, which in itself in my own life interferes with the whole process. So that beautiful image of the dance and coming together to keep on the dance no matter what. So thank you. And Freddy Zental, how would you respond to that?
Well, you know, the relationship is an opportunity to continue to choose my life and everything in my life. So when I get into a discord with Elsbeth to look at what it is I want to communicate, if anything I need to or want to, and what is there for her, and to come back to choosing the relationship, choosing the things in my life. Because it's like the upset starts when I want it to be different than it is, knowing really that I'm the only one creating my life as it is, and interpreting from places that I don't know and that I do know. So to be conscious enough, and the work that we teach is really an opportunity to keep being in it in my own life, because it's not like, you know, we teach this and okay, good luck, or you know, we don't do it. It's, you know, we're in the same boat, and it's kind of like yoga. You know, you go to the same class, 13 standing and floor poses, and it's different every time. So we're constantly refining and reapproaching and working with the dynamics of sexual consciousness as it exists in creativity and pleasure, showing up more and more in our life.
Beautiful, beautiful. That consciousness. And I think that that's something that I really wanted to speak to in this online show. So thank you for bringing that up, that there is this higher level of consciousness, this greater awareness, this tending to our own personal needs, seeing how it affects each other. And in that, the dance, the fresh spring day of aliveness and creativity and being all that we can be in that partnership. Yeah. Is there more about that you'd like to share?
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff. Well, what we do at Tantra Nova, so a lot of people come here and they have been doing other things in terms of transformation, but few have really learned how to work with the sexual energy as a transformational vehicle. I mean, forever we've been procreating with this energy. It's what it does. The last 100 or so years recreating with the development of contraceptives. And what we're teaching is how to co-create with what I call this sexual intelligence. There's a systemic intelligence encapsulated in sexual energy, and it shows up when we bring consciousness to the sexual. The elements of creativity and pleasure start showing up outside of the bedroom in the simple process of living itself. So when we start bringing consciousness to a deeper listening, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, story-wise, and so on, then what happens is we start to look at how does that feel to say, well, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement. You know, so how do I shift that to what do I appreciate about what I'm doing in my life?
Yeah, let's bring this back also how that plays out in our relationship, you know. So again, what we teach totally comes out of what we practice, and how can I connect like in a daily way with Freddy, where I'm fully present in my physical, sexual self, my love and emotional self, and my mental, spiritual, consciousness self. And of course, I can only be fully connected in all these three anchors. There are three anchors: the physical, emotional, the spiritual. If I'm practiced within, you know. So, and particularly the sexual part, because that is a big challenge for many couples. You know, that it may have been great in the past when we met each other. Again, it's the new spring day, you know, everything is so new, the hormones go. And then how can we create intimacy and love lasting, in a lasting way? Now, that doesn't mean that's going to be exactly the same as it was for us, you know, 18 years ago when we met. there are new vistas available, and they may look a little different. So back to the sexual, how can I be connected to my sexual self as a ground of being? That doesn't mean that I have to jump Freddy's bones.
That's when it happens, but
that is, that all of it is wonderful. But in that, like this moment when Freddy comes over to my desk, I'm working on something on my computer, totally engaged and, just in my head. And then he comes over and places his hand on my heart center.
Like a heart mudra, yeah.
And that is the moment, because we agree to it, that is the moment when I totally stop. Which means, okay, this is the moment where we connect. We connect heart to heart, and we breathe in and out together so that our energy can circulate. Energy can only circulate when we breathe. Otherwise, we die, So let's just stay here for a moment, because this is such a crucial moment in our relationship, like a daily practice where we look into each other's eye, like the left eye, and then we breathe together, breathing in and breathing out.
And we put our visualization on receiving heart energy on the inhalation and sending on the exhalation. And it really drops us out. It starts to, drops us right into the witness, where we're watching the story or conversation or disconnect or whatever what might be there. And it's the yoga of it. It's the energetic yoga of it. It just leads us right to the stretch, back to being now.
Yeah. And it's really, it has to do for the couple that wants to be connected in a daily way, has to do with that we bring ourselves to that moment. Even if I'm in a rush, even if it's just 3 breaths, and that is how we source and resource and back to that life force energy. Why this activates our life force energy has to do with that life force energy is circular within. So when I start breathing and focusing, like the life force is then circulated here with each other. So that is how it shows up for me in a daily way. And then not to mention all the other beautiful moments when we wake up in the morning or go to sleep with each other, or Freddy, just touches me and caresses me before I fall asleep. And these are all precious moments.
Well, that was a precious moment right there. And I want to bow and say, mahalo nui loa, great big thanks for allowing me and us to bear witness to that, because you perfectly summed up my next question, which was, how do you deepen connection? What is one thing our audience can take with us? And I will take that with me. I was up late last night working on my memoir and on the computer, and my husband's crawling into bed, and he tries to lure me because he knows I love it when he reads to me. He's like, come on, honey, I'll read to you. And I couldn't really hear him. And I was like, what did you just say? And he said it a couple times, and I couldn't really hear. And I was wearing my blue blocker glasses because it's nighttime, right? And I'm typing away, trying to honor my own boundary of, okay, power down, but I'm getting this thing done. And finally he said, get your ass over here, in a playful way, which he doesn't usually talk to me that way. And I just laughed. It cut through it. And then we were able to connect together physically. And that's that beautiful connect and that heart. I do that for myself as a self-soothing. Like when I hear news of something that's intense or I want to reconnect, just that. But to see you two do that for each other was just priceless. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So that segues to the, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I would share with your reader or with your listeners what I do and what I suggest and what we teach as a foundational first practice is the parasympathetic breathing. So typically we breathe sympathetically. We don't think about it up in the upper lungs, and it oxygenates the body and we're done. When we breathe parasympathetically, we actually have to think to bring the breath down into the diaphragm and extend the belly, which a couple of things. One, it oxygenates our body more efficiently, and it starts to move the endorphins and the serotonin, the oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. So it actually puts our body in a chemical state of ease. And then really, most importantly, it starts to develop the witness, where we're watching the thoughts, where we give a little pause from the story. So on a regular basis to do the belly breath, I like to do 10 of those in the morning before I get out of bed. And it just I watch my day. I can see the meter go up and go down, and I'm a little more of a witness to the drama.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that reminder of the breathing. You both really articulate that so well. It is absolutely essential for a quality relationship with self, other, and spirit. So thank you for that. The next question that I'm curious about is, how do you dissolve negativity if and when it shows up? If you could give an example there, please.
Yeah, so I like to call it differences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, differences in the sense of that I may want something else than what Freddy wants, or I may have a desire or a need in the moment where I don't feel being heard, or he didn't pay attention to me, for example, you know. And so there was a situation this morning over breakfast. Every morning we have the ritual of having breakfast together. We eat paleo, so I prepare eggs and veggies, steam some veggies or saute some veggies. It's all very intentional and fun, you know, and not serious, but intentional. And so we already had finished eating. And I was sharing with Freddy an insight I had, a very fundamental insight for my life, my relationship with men, my relationship with my dad. So, you know, this kind of deep insight.
Yeah.
And I shared more about this with him this morning upon completion eating. And then in the middle of me sharing, he pointed over to the stove, and I had no clue. I thought, oh, I left the stove on, you know, which I'm known to do. No, the flames were gone, nothing. And then there was a little piece of vegetables on, like, next to the, you know, where you put the pot. And I was so, you know, said, what? So I cleaned it up. And then I also, because I felt like, what did that have to do with me sharing what I was sharing? And what came out was like that the acknowledgement then of our different styles. You know, when I'm about something, I'm very, very focused and like laser beam. And Freddy is, as he earlier mentioned, the creative. You know, you mentioned this in the sexual and all of that, the creative, the, you know, moving like that as a butterfly at times. And he's the creative one. He is going to have another show of his wonderful, we call it Tantra Lounge Soiree, on the 29th of September, where he sings Sinatra and Nat King Cole songs. I mean, it's phenomenal, all about romance and love, and whoo, I feel so serenaded, and everybody, the whole audience feels serenaded. So he's very creative and musical and rhythmical and all of that. And that is also how he is in life, you know. And every time when this happens, when he goes off, in my eyes, goes off the path, you know, also when we teach together, it drives me crazy. That is the opportunity for me to step back and say, oh, this is a different style. This is a different world. This doesn't mean he doesn't respect me. This doesn't mean he talks over me. No, it's just like the way he moves, just how he is learning, continually learning to be with this so like laser beam kind of focus. And of course, you can already see it's like the yin and yang in the sense of like, you know, the complementing each other, that his playful, creative, you know, Vesuvius way is a refreshing way of being vis-a-vis me, who is the German, who is very linear in many ways. You know, I can also be very non-linear. But so back to the differences, to instead of me going, then he's not listening to me, or something is much more important to him, like this piece of vegetable on the stove, you know, and he's never listening to me. You know, I can easily go into that place. We stepped out very quickly because we really
Yeah,
saw.
I think that's what happens for us when differences arise because of the constantly, nurturing the witness and being in the breath and watching the stories that we make up based on triggers that we can, move pretty quickly through things. So things can come up and then we can come back to, being present and make a request or whatever might be there and see something and move quickly.
Yeah. And the commitment to having a harmonious relationship instead of being committed to being right.
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 Yeah. So I'm really hearing that, bringing back that image of the dancing together and the coming together over and over again, even if you step on each other's toes, the willingness to be like, oh, honey, and keep on keeping on in that loving space of acknowledging differences and allowing that inner awareness, that inner consciousness to really fuel what I'm hearing is a tremendous amount of resiliency. That there's not a big toppling over if something goes sideways. It's oh yeah, there's that again. We're very different. Let's come back together. And when you said it's refreshing, I really had that sense as you were describing it of just this breath of fresh air, because I think it is so much about the story we tell ourselves about ourselves and our partners and our life that really creates a beautiful landscape or a tortured, nightmarish one. So,
right. Yeah, I was going to say this thing like she mentioned with the vegetables this afternoon or this morning. So when things like that happen, what works for me, if one shares or she shares, or if I share what my feeling is that's there, as opposed to you make me or I hate when you do. And if I can come from I, then the listener can get off of whatever they've got going on with their ego or feeling attacked or what have you. And it's a deeper share, and it's a deeper just getting what's there for me. I'm not saying this is just what showed up for me, and that really is so valuable because that's the energy that we often, hold on to, stuff down, and it makes us sick.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Freddy Zental, for bringing up the importance of healthy communication and that willingness to own one's own feelings, take responsibility for it, and know what they are. That's vital in that space between. And my goodness, I feel like we're just getting a little taste of all of the wonders of the space between.
One thing, Elizabeth, I want to bring up, because the example with the vegetables was a light example. There are other places where differences can be much bigger. So like, for example, when one of us, may want to be with another partner, and we both encountered this both ways. And then to stay present to the other, like Freddy more recently over the last year, he, really offered me his graciousness when I brought it up that I wanted to have an experience with another man. And we really looked at it. That doesn't mean that it was not highly triggering to him.
For a moment, and then I got, we're on this path together and she's got her life and I've got my life and we're living a life together. And how can I, out of my caring for her, support her to be all that she wants to be and can be and experience everything before it's over? I mean, we're all kind of muddling through till the end. So so let's kind of dance as much as we can and, and hold each other in the dance. So.
Yeah, and also at the same time being very clear about the bond of the primary relationship. And we don't live an open relationship. And
18 years it's changed this way and that way, but for the most part, we're pretty much just monogamous between the two of us. But when things change, we can talk about it and be with whatever upsets and see what's there for the other.
And that is what I mean. Being with the discomfort of honesty. So that because when we are not honest, when I'm not honest with myself and not honest with Freddy, that is a constriction of energy. And that actually is the beginning of the end. So, like that is where we shrivel where the relationship shrivels. And so being in the differences when something may feel negative, to then transmute it into what is the opportunity here for one, for the other, and for us as a union, as a couple, as a creation together.
Right. Right. I really hear that emphasis on honesty and the ability to be true to oneself and bring that to the relationship in a very respectful, contained, and considerate way. And I think that's important for our listeners to hear. It's a good reminder for me, because as I've explored some of those very things that you're bringing up, it requires an even higher level of consciousness. And I think that's a distinction that needs to be made, because oftentimes we think of that as, oh, that's just another inappropriate behavior, or that's a leak of energy, or perhaps there's another addiction going on or whatever. But when we actually, in my experience, unearth it and dig underneath, there's a greater yearning for being seen no matter what, and how the relationship can provide that container for us to bring our whole selves forward is what I really see you two modeling for us today and giving inspiration. And as I said, this is just a little taste of your amazing work and wisdom that you are sharing with us. And I'm curious if you have a way for listeners to get more from you in terms of a free gift or an offering of some sort.
Yes, yes. So in line with the topics of our conversation here, creating lasting intimacy and love. So we would like to share with you a DVD, a video download that is called Creating Intimacy and Love. And it will share actually a couple of practices so that what we shared here in the conversation, you can start practicing. So both Freddy and I, we are doing the teaching in that video. You can do it right with us there, sitting with us in the circle. And then what I recommend is that you bring these two practices into your everyday life.
Yes.
And then start connecting from these practices with your beloved. Of course, these practices can be done together in, sitting together in the same room. You can do them by yourself, but they cultivate the relationship, the deepening of your relationship with self, out of which the deepening with the other is available.
Beautiful, beautiful. Sounds like a wonderful Valentine's gift for our listeners. And the information to click to get that download DVD will be in this email, this daily email about this amazing interview, Creating Lasting Intimacy and Love. Thank you so much for your time today. I feel like we've just gotten started, so I look forward to future collaboration together. And a big thank you to our listeners, and stay tuned for the next interview.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.